let's begin with the absolute state of modern education. Now, it's actually not any kind of revelation to say that, well, modern education is pretty poor, isn't it? I mean, everyone knows it. It's everywhere, all around us. And this is an old joke that old heads will know, right? A video called Modern Education that was produced, and I had to check this 9 years ago, right? But what this was mocking was the advance of woke and SJWs through the education system back then, which was totally fair. But the problem of poor education predates this by a long way. This is something that began in the sort of middle of the 20th century, probably around the boomers, actually, and was taken away from us. And weirdly enough, it was something that came up a lot when I was talking about Adolescence. Did you watch Adolescence?
I haven't seen it, I'm afraid.
You know what? I think you'd actually enjoy it because it's actually more interesting than you think. Because one of the things that's portrayed in it is the schooling system. And the only thing you can come away with from watching their portrayal of the modern school system is that this is totally dysfunctional. And in fact, the police officer who's investigating in the series says, how does anyone learn here? And the answer is, of course, they don't, because it's dominated by women, which means the boundaries are very soft when it comes to punishment, and the children are totally disrespectful to the teachers, and of course, they're not really learning anything in the classrooms. And so when I was on GB News, that was something that just kept coming up, because it's like, well, look, this is a real reflection of our reality. Like, you go to any state school these days, probably looks a lot like what's represented in Adolescence, unfortunately. And this is completely well known in academia and in the literature. They are well aware of the fact that actually things have gone downhill dramatically, and there's no reason that it should have been the case. Again, this is just from a Cambridge assessment where and it's like, my God, why are things going downhill? Why is it that the quality of education that we're getting is plummeting? And I just want to go through some examples of just how bad our education is getting. And so, I mean, this is in 2008, but again, in the early 21st century, like, you can find this in The Guardian, right? Where this was in 2004, where the Guardians are like, well, hang on a second. Why exactly is it that we as adults now don't really even understand the Victorian exam papers that 11 and 12-year-olds had to take then? I mean, you see this critical school policy have seized on a Victorian exam paper as proof that education standards have been dumbed down. No question of it. And I just want to, right, just a quick caveat on this. We're going to look stupid, right? Because we are the products of the modern education system, as are you. As are the people writing this, who, as campaigners say, that the school entrance exam would be too difficult even for most of today's A-level students. Yeah. So let's have a quick look at some 1859 exam paper questions, shall we? Because these are, honestly, it's embarrassing. It's genuinely embarrassing that we've got to this point, right? So they go down to here we go. There's the examination paper that any 12-year-old in 1859 would have had to take. And we're going to skip the arithmetic ones because I can't answer them. I mean, I'm not a mathematician. A wedge of gold weighing 14 pounds, 3 ounces, and 8 DWT? The hell's DWT? I don't know what that is. And it's valued at 514 L, which, I mean, is that pounds? I mean, I don't know. And 4 shillings? What's the value of an ounce? Man, I don't know. Good God, but we're going to, anyway, like I said, we're going to skip the arithmetic ones and go to the English grammar, analysis, and composition ones, right? Mention some connective words which are not conjunctions. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's tricky, that. Okay, yeah.
Is the definition usually given of the relative pronoun applicable to any other pronouns? What is the distinctive characteristic of the relative pronoun? What? I don't know. I don't know what the answers to these questions are. And I'm 45 years old and deeply embarrassed by this. Define the degrees of comparison of adjectives. Give a list of adjectives which have irregular forms for the comparative and superlative degrees.
Yeah,
any idea?
These aren't easy questions, I'll tell you that.
For us, anyway. Right? I mean, thankfully, the next section is History of England. I can actually answer these questions. For example, explain the terms Wettenagemot, Danegelt, curfew, Doomsday Book, scutage, and Magna Charta. I assume you can do those as well. So just for anyone watching, the Witenagemot was an Anglo-Saxon meeting and acted as a kind of advisory council to the king. The Danegeld is what we paid the Danes to tell them to get lost. Curfew is obviously a restriction on movement. The Doomsday Book was William the Conqueror's assessment of everything that was in England. Scutage was a tax that knights paid to evade military service. And of course, the Magna Charta is the beginning of the historic constitutional liberties of the English, signed in 1215 under duress by John the First. I think it was John the First. Mm-hmm. So at least I can answer the history ones, but the only reason I can answer the history ones is because as an adult, I was like, oh, I'm interested in history. I will learn about this. Whereas any 12-year-old would have been expected to have been able to answer this. I couldn't have answered that at 12 years old. Mm-hmm. Could you?
No.
Right. And so why is this the case? I mean, again, I can answer these as well, but I won't for now, just to save time. But the point is, this is what our kids used to have access to, this level of understanding and information and knowledge. And the BBC did a kind of dumbed down version for modern audiences. Right. So I thought we'd go through this. This is a bit easier, right?
All right, yeah.
Find the lowest common multiple of 10, 24, 25, 32, and 45. Should we take a guess? Let's take a guess. Oh, wonderful.
Okay, pretty good.
7,200. Yep. Thank God. Let's go to the next one. Explain the chemical changes that take place during the process of combustion in ordinary fire. Hydrogen combines with oxygen to make water vapor. Definitely not. Hydrogen combines with nitrogen to make ammonia. Definitely not. Carbon combines with oxygen to make carbon dioxide. Magnesium combines... All right, I reckon it's that one. I mean, I don't think it makes ammonia or water vapor, right? No, energy is contained. Energy has to be released. So maybe it's this one. I don't think it's making water vapor. Maybe it is. I don't know. This is the point, right? Victorian school children knew this. Bollocks. The point is I don't know these things. What are the three main elements in the composition of air? I'm pretty sure it's this one.
Sounds right.
21% oxygen.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Suck it, Victorian school children. Immediately, describe how a note is affected by having a dot placed immediately after it. I don't play music, so I don't know. Let's just choose one. Oh, that's a lucky guess. I at least know what the Doomsday Book is, a written record of everything, so that's fine. When it is 12 o'clock in Greenwich in winter, what time is it in St. Petersburg? How many hours ahead is Russia?
Let's think.
I'm going to go 3.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, let's go 3. Oh, there we go. What is a preposition?
It is a... let's have a look. Well, it's not the first one.
A word.
A word that tells you where or when something is in relation to... It's that one.
I actually know that it's that one, and I'll explain to everyone why I know it's this one shortly afterwards. But correct. And what was the Spanish Armada? This one is correct, of course.
Yes.
So, even in the dumbed down one, we only got 7 out of 8.
Smashed it.
And that was 2 lucky guesses. I mean, if it wasn't multiple choice, we wouldn't nearly have done so well on that one. But this is the point, right? And so it's become dramatically apparent that even to very well-educated and credentialed gentlemen like ourselves are missing something. There's something that we should have that it would have been expected that we would have had 200 years ago. It's genuinely embarrassing. Look, it's just hordes of children in school in the 19th century learning things that were important to know in order to be able to just do things in the world. And we've been deprived of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the things, of course, Carl, that all of the 12-year-olds would have done in that day and age was something called the trivium. Which
that is true.
We're going to be talking about soon.
Well, you know what? Funny you should mention that, because that's actually making a comeback. Right.
Interesting.
So this is an article from just the other day, just February, in which there's a modern school in Britain that has decided what we might want to do, given how stupid everyone is now and uneducated is now, is maybe reintroduce the form of education that they had in the 19th century. Mm-hmm. And, well, as you can see, with astounding results. And this really shouldn't come as any great surprise to anyone, but I'm just going to read from this article, right? Newham Collegiate Sixth Form Centre has an atmosphere of respect, hard work, traditional instruction that can be traced back to its founding in 2014. The school has a liberal arts programme which uses methods inherited from medieval and ancient teachers to introduce students to cultures of the past. This model is called the Trivium. And so what they have done is brought back the Trivium for 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and as they say, quote, the results are astounding. At A-level in 2024, 96% of their students were B or above. That is incredible. Mm-hmm. And then they point out, for context, Eton is only 93.6. So it's a better education standard than at the best school in the country.
Excellent. Not surprising, though, to be honest.
No, not at all surprising. But like the question is, well, okay, why were we deprived of all of this? Is the real question, right? Nobody scored less than a C in anything. What? That's crazy. Last year, 95% of students received offers from Russell Group universities, including Oxford and Cambridge. And they're going off to like Harvard and wherever. It's like, okay, we really should be doing something different with our education here. And so you've got various educators who are like, we need to bring the Trivium back into classrooms. Right? We absolutely need to do this. We should never have let it leave. Why was it ever taken out is the question. But we obviously should bring that back. So Martin Robinson is an education consultant who has been doing the same thing. And he's the person behind this particular school. And within 3 years of opening, the school is sending pupils to MIT, Harvard, Princeton, and you read this, okay, why was this taken away from me? And it's like, why is it now, if I go to the average man on the street and ask him what's a syllogism, he's like, I don't know. Why would he know? Right? Whereas you can watch interviews with people, like men on the street interviews in the 60s, and you'll notice how much more intelligent they seem. And this is not a coincidence. This is because they had the Trivium and the classical education, and it's beginning with the boomers, I think, that this was in fact taken away from them. And this has been the case, that the curse that we labour under all of this time. Any thoughts on this so far?
Yes, I think one of the things that sets Trivium apart from the sort of education that we may have had is that I think maybe starting in the 1960s onwards, there was a kind of thinking that we have maybe progressed, quote unquote, beyond this, that we're more sophisticated now.
Enlightened, perhaps.
Right. And so therefore, rather than spending hours upon hours learning about demonstrative adjectives and parts of speech and, how to construct a sentence and boring things like syntax and how to use a comma, instead, we're going to be doing feminist deconstructions of, a poem or, I'm not even really exaggerating that much, where, I'm just thinking back to my own school. I was lucky enough to go to a school at a certain time that did actually teach old-fashioned grammar, parts of speech, okay? But in that school, my textbooks, I remember, I opened them and they were printed in 1948. And I was being taught by ancient 80-year-old nuns.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a kind of, not everybody had that education.
No, I certainly didn't have that education.
But moving forward in my education, certainly that emphasis on grammar and the fundamentals, the ABCs, gradually reduces over time. Certainly by the time you're 12, and then certainly by the time you're doing GCSEs and A-levels, it's completely gone. Logic, which is in the second part of the Trivium, I should probably explain, the Trivium was writing, logic, or grammar, you should say, logic and rhetoric, okay? Logic, never taught at any time in my education, at any point, was logic formal or informal taught. And then
just a quick point on that. I had to do a degree in philosophy to get an education in logic, in formal logic. And that is crazy if you think about it, because I mean, constructing a syllogism is something you do every day. Is the sky black? Yes, the sky black, then it's going to rain, then I should bring an umbrella, right? Everyone uses logic in every decision that they make. And the fact that like 12-year-olds used to have a proper conception of what a formal logical proposition was, and adults now don't.
Exactly.
I mean, the question is, what is the agenda behind this? Right now, one thing that lots of people now think is that, well, it was a deliberate attempt during the 20th century to create compliant workers, to man the factories, to man the offices, and honestly, maybe they're right. But you have a choice as to whether you're going to allow that to be the future that they condemn you to. And I've decided to make the choice against it. But sorry, go on. What's the rest of the trivia?
Oh, well, and then the third part, of course, is rhetoric,
Yes.
where, I mean, literally from the Greek rhetoricians and philosophers, you learn, not only what I think there's a kind of people will remember some of the memes, not an argument and all of that, where you learn a few fallacies here and there.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about dozens upon dozens of rhetorical forms or ways of thinking about how to approach an argument, what you're actually trying to achieve, things like kairos, which we were talking about earlier on,
Methods of persuasion.
and pivotally persuasion. Now, in terms of rhetoric, which I would say has been the one not taught for the longest time, I think that those darker arts of rhetoric were basically co-opted by the advertising and the marketers and kind of kept as almost like a secret knowledge. Okay. But anyway, the point is that...
Well, just before we go on that, because again, this is another thing that you can see yourself. Go back and look at speeches from politicians. Excuse me. So like 60 years ago, right? You will notice that they are all, and George Galloway is basically the last great rhetorician in this country. And compare it to the speeches that are given in Parliament now. That is total amateurs who do not know how to project. They don't know how to construct an argument using grammar, because were never taught grammar. They don't know how to make sure their arguments are logically consistent, and so you can always poke holes in them because they've not been trained in logic, and they don't know how to deliver them in a persuasive way because they've all got that same kind of modern Blairite sounding mediocrity that underpins the quality of their speech. And you see this in like just the Labour front bench, frankly.
Well, I mean, the Prime Minister, I mean, as much as many of us liked his speech the other day...
He's a terrible speaker.
He doesn't speak from the diaphragm. Yeah. He speaks all up here.
Very nice.
So the full force of the law, people, yeah. But yeah. It's a different resonance, where if you listen to Galloway... I mean, I was lucky enough to see George Galloway speak live a couple of times, and he...
Powerful.
...projects to the back of the room. Yeah. He's a great public speaker. You may dislike his politics.
Oh, I do, but you can't deny that he is a force when he is speaking. He is able to summon up genuine rhetorical power because he knows how grammar and logic and rhetoric dovetail together to make him a presence in any room that he is in. And this is like, again, Galloway's a great example, and you can pair them with just anyone. Ed Miliband, right? Just listen to Ed Miliband explain himself. And you realize you're dealing with a very pathetic person who doesn't like. Do you remember when he was who was it that was talking to, like, some interviewer, and they were saying, "Are you tough enough to challenge Vladimir Putin?" He's like, "Heck yeah, I'm tough enough." And it's like, there is just no way. I mean, that was a joke, fell completely flat because he had no rhetorical power, he had no logical force, and he had no ability to combine words in a certain way to tickle the back of your brain and make you think, oh wait, this guy might be on something. And so you can see that Ed Miliband is the product of the modern education system. Mm-hmm. All of this, the technique has been drained out of it, and our parliament is full of these people who have no technique. It's embarrassing.
I mean, ideally, if you master all three parts of the trivium, you will make an argument that somebody gets instantly, i.e. it's so clear that anybody, even a 12-year-old or, whoever was going to get it straight
Even
away.
a Labour Party member.
Yeah, even a Labour Party member won't get it straight away. The second thing is that the argument makes sense. It's coherent. It's valid. It's true. And then the third part is you're getting underneath the mind, and you're hitting the non-intellectual parts of which is the majority of how people think and how they're persuaded. And ideally, and if you can do all three of those things, then like
the world is your oyster.
You're gonna be ahead of a lot of other people. The other thing to say is that, like I was saying, the modern education system tries to do a lot of running before it can walk. And what the Trivium is very good at is building block by block from the foundations, where it's like you're building up a toolkit to be able. It's like the difference between giving a man a fish and teaching a man to fish.
Oh, it genuinely is.
Right. And it's like one of those skills that once you've mastered these things, you'll have them forever, and it will see you good pretty much in any given setting. And it will help with any other subject, not just English, but any topic.
But getting back onto the sort of more conspiratorial aspect of it, you can see why, if you were thinking, well, I want compliant workers to work in offices, I don't want them having hypercritical skills. I don't want them being able to analyze correctly the world around them. I just want them to be compliant and be technically proficient. And so one of the things I've always wondered is, why do I know what Pythagoras' theorem is? Why do I know what this is? I remember being taught it at 14 and thinking, okay, I'm never going to be called upon to use this. And lo and behold, 30 years later, I've never been called upon to use it, but I still know it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared for some reason. And that's the kind of like drone programming that our schooling system has given us at this point.
Yeah.
Whereas I had to, luckily enough, I'm fairly smart, so I had to go and find all of this for myself rather than it being the standard. And you can't help but think, well, this has been done on purpose. So anyway, I guess this is a good part to point out that what we're doing now is producing courses. And so we have licensed your Trivium as the first course that we are going to be producing. Now, these courses are not going to be idle. The purpose of these courses is to reconstruct the education you had denied to you. The Trivium will be the first one that we're producing, but Stelios is currently busy writing a second course that will be out very soon, which is about how to lead a good life. Because again, this is one of those things that has just been deliberately, I would say, deprived from people in the modern era. Because it used to be that there was a whole suite of wisdom literature that the ancients had access to, is what you should be doing. Because at the moment, you're free, go and do what you want. Well, actions have consequences. What is it you're supposed to be doing? And so Stelios will have a course coming very soon. But for now, we'll focus on the Trivium, because if I recall correctly, I was the one badgering you to write this, wasn't I?
Yes. Yeah. Back in, whenever it was.
Yeah, like 2016 or something.
Yes. You were talking loud and clear about how something like this needed to be available. One of the things I found when I actually came to do this is that a lot of the textbooks were Victorian. Yeah. Some of them even older. I was telling you just before we came on air that for rhetoric, because it hadn't been taught for so long, I was having to uncover books from the 18th century. And one of the textbooks I, was reconstructing this course from was literally falling apart in my hands, like an antique,
Yeah.
So there is an extent to which all of these things have to be kind of put back together, or rediscovered by us as a generation who basically were denied these fundamental skills. One of the things I should mention really is that, I have a PhD. I've taught at the highest level. I've seen...
You were a lecturer for many years.
I've seen students come in to study English who can't write a sentence. These are all people who have A-levels in English literature, by the way, who need to be taught how to write again. But even from my own background, okay, when I was a student, I'm not just saying this to... I'm not saying this to boast, but when I was an undergraduate, I had the highest grade for 80 years in the college I went to, okay? Then I went on to Oxford.
Decline is real.
Right, and then I went on to, well, this is where I'm getting to. Then I went on to Oxford, got a distinction from there. Okay. Then I came to do my PhD, and I handed in my first chapter, pleased as punch, cock of the walk. I was, this is it. I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Came back, it was absolutely covered in red ink. And my supervisor was like, you can't write, can you? I was like, what?
I've got a master's in English. What are you talking about?
I'm the best student ever. What are you talking about? Yeah, you can't write, can you? And then I kind of, it really kind of rocked everything. And I was like, shit, he's right. I can't write. And I had to basically teach myself again how to write from the ground up, unlearn all of the terrible habits that have been built up from the education system that I'd had. Okay.
That you should have been instructed in as a child.
This is stuff I should have known from the age of 12. But in fact, the system was rewarding those bad habits all the way through. Okay. And until I was literally that late on that I came to realize. But then I realized other things. Okay. I've written all these essays. Okay. Have I ever studied logic? Do I actually know? I'm analyzing arguments, but do I know what an argument is? Do I know how to define a term? Do I know what a premise is? And this is something else that our school system, right? I did GCSE history and A-level. I remember being asked to compare sources, analyze this source against that source, but we'd never been taught, the basic skills of what makes a good argument, what is logical. So you're basically asking kids to do things that they've never been taught to do.
Yeah, they've got no.
And probably the teacher.
Well,
the teacher doesn't know how to do it either.
They're a product of the modern education system as well, because I do think this began with the boomers in the 60s, where the education system was changed to deprive them of this. And so my parents, me, and my children are all missing out on this. And you can see that it's being brought back experimentally. It's like, oh, well, what a surprise. If we experimentally bring it back, all the kids are doing brilliantly. It's like, yeah, so who's held accountable for this? Who can we hold accountable for ruining our education?
I mean, the analogy I'd make is that it's like being sent out to play football, right? But like all those like little tricks that Messi and Ronaldo used to do, like the flip overs and stuff. It's like sending somebody out, but you've only taught them how to do the fancy tricks, but you've never taught them how to do like just the simple side pass, the little A to B, the really basic things of positioning. It's exactly like that. And we're sending thousands, millions of kids out into the world, having never taught them the fundamental ABCs. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to these courses, I really believe not just for 12-year-olds, okay? I mean, some 12-year-olds may even, if they're used to the sort of work they'd be doing, they might do these courses and think, oh, this is a bit of a step up. But I would recommend this for anybody who never did this stuff in school at any point, even if you're a PhD. It's funny. I was on Twitter the other day. Did you see that one? I'm a PhD. You don't need to tell me what median is. It means average.
Oh my god!
Did you see that one?
No, I didn't.
So that was like
median, as I understand, is the middle point.
It's the middle point. It's not
the average.
But so we're now producing people who are on Twitter saying, "I've got a PhD. Don't try to explain to me." So they've got the letters, they've got the status, but they still don't even understand the absolute basics when it comes to argumentation, writing. And of course rhetoric, which we're about to talk about. So
the reason that I began thinking about this way back, this must have been like 2016, 2017. I remember doing a video for my Sargon channel where I was a bit drunk and I was just rambling that, look, we are losing the quality of people that we used to produce. Because it used to be when someone from Britain arrived on a continent on the other side of the world, that was an important thing. Like, you've got like an educated Englishman who has now stepped foot in like Malaysia or something. Oh, this guy's going to be able to do things. He's going to be able to understand things and make things happen that otherwise wouldn't have been able to happen. This is an important and impressive person who's traveled across the world, and he is going to make a difference. And we used to produce generation after generation of these people. These were the men who staffed the British Empire and made it the largest imperial project ever and made it respectable and worthy. And all I was thinking at the time is just, we are just not producing those kinds of men anymore. And I at the time, I had no idea why, obviously. I just could see that we were not, because I was, researching and just watching old things, thinking, why are we just such worse communicators? Why are we just worse intellectually than these people? And of course, it's because they did the trivium and we didn't. And so I've sat there and I've done your trivium, and one thing that you get is it humbles you, because you realize, oh, I didn't know this and I should have known this. And you can already see where you yourself, where you think about things you've done recently or whatever, and you're like, I shouldn't have done it like that. I should have done it this other way. And it's one of those things where it's like, right, okay, no, it is absolutely true that we are going to just have to retake our own education. This was stolen from us.
Absolutely. I mean, and one of the things, you see, the knock-on benefits are so great, because the key thing is not even just writing and communication. It's clarity in your own thinking.
Yes.
Okay. And this is, I mean, having taught hundreds, thousands of students over the course of my life, you can always tell if somebody doesn't really know what they're talking about. They're just writing words, or they're just trying to fill up the space. Okay, and it all comes through as a quality of your writing. Foundations of writing will actually force you to think about what you're saying in a sentence, to make it make sense. And I mean, one of the things we can talk about later is even the order of the words in the sentence. Oh, yeah. Subject, verb, object. Okay, subject, verb, object. And this is one of those things that once you start spotting it, you'll start seeing how politicians, for example, hide the pronoun. Okay? So rather than saying, I did this, they'll say things like, oh, well, mistakes were made.
Yes. Okay,
well, you're now hiding the doer of the action. If you think, well, every sentence needs a doer of an action, you're already, so it's automatically making like the world more real. Okay, because it's concretizing it.
But also, this shows you how the politicians are getting away with it. If the people they're talking to have been denied an education in grammar, well, it's not self-evident to them to look for the hidden pronoun in the sentence that gives the politician plausible deniability and cover for their own actions, for the things they've done. And you wonder why we've got such poor quality politicians and they keep getting away with it. Well, it's because the public can't really see what's happening because of this. And it's all down to this, I think. I really think so. So basically, live now at courses.lotuses.com is the trivium. And this, I'm very, 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 very pleased with all of this. So you can buy the courses individually if you are interested only in logic, rhetoric, or writing. I mean, for example, I did logic during my degree in philosophy, so I actually didn't do your Foundations of Logic course. Because I looked at the syllabus and was like, well, this is exactly the same as my philosophy degree syllabus.
Did you do definitions of terms when you were?
Probably. I'll have to go back and check my notes.
I'm skeptical of that. Actually.
I just didn't have time to do it in preparation because. Okay. So one of the things that I think is important to stress with this is that this is not just you watching YouTube videos, right? No. What this is, there is an hour-long lecture for each one. Then you have all of the materials that go with it, and then you have a series of like examination-style questions that you yourself have to write. This is not just watching entertainment. What this is improving yourself, because you are not what you should have been because of what the 20th century has done to us. That's literally that simple. And so, yeah, I had to spend a day going through each one of these, and just in preparation to be able to talk about them now. And already, I mean, I'm going to go back through them because there are definitely the writing thing in particular, because I do a lot of writing myself. So it's like, yeah, no, I really should be more buffed up on this by a long way. I'm reasonably confident about my rhetoric, but the rest of it, the writing in particular, I personally found a lot of good in. So this is definitely what I would recommend.
I know if you do take it, I would say that the order you should do them in is the order that you see. I would do writing first, then logic, then rhetoric. The reason I say that is because, you remember I was just talking about walking before you can run? Yeah. The writing and the logic is almost like learning how to walk. Rhetoric, you're getting into a jog, or you may even be running. Like, there are some, you kind of need to know the rules before you break the rules. and rhetoric doesn't always play by the rules of logic or even good grammar. So yeah.
No, but it is also one of the most fun parts, I have to say.
It's the fun part.
I do. Yeah, it was the bit that I went to first. I'm not gonna lie, but the rhetoric is more fun. But anyway,
Carl, you need to have your roughage, eat your Brussels sprouts,
You do.
and your veg before you move to the delights of the plate and eat the meat.
that is true.
The rhetoric's like the meat.
And that is exactly what I explain to my children, but I still don't do it. But seriously, though, this is honestly, I'm very proud to be able to have this as our sort of flagship course, because I've and you guys know, watching the podcast, I've been complaining about the state of education forever, and it's not coming back for us, right? If you're an adult watching this, which undoubtedly you will be, you aren't getting this from somewhere else, right? No one's going to provide this to you. You should have had this when you were a child. This was taken away from you. And the thing is, in your schools at the moment, I know a lot of you are going to be dads. My kids are going to be doing this. When my oldest son reaches 12, sorry, son, we're sitting down and we're doing the trivium because you need to know. And I will have to be able to be the one who tests him in a homeschool on this course.
The other thing I'll say is that with this course, no wokery, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But also no corners cut whatsoever. I was literally going to source, what is it that the Victorians did? And I didn't really dumb it down, if that makes any sense, for a modern audience, because why the whole point,
that's the point.
The whole point is that you have to learn. So there are a few parts of it, especially when you're doing the logic, that get a bit esoteric, where you have to start learning these weird words to try to remember the order of the order of the premises and so on. But these are actually how they would have done it, because a lot of the sort of education they had in the Victorian time, they did a lot of drumming. You just have to learn this through repetition. And one of the things I wanted to build in is by making the tests at the end, you have to. I was pretty impressed that you got through them in a because you have to ace. You can't get 5 out of 10 or something. You have to get full marks basically, because it's testing. Do you know this? And there's no shortcut. You either have to know it or you don't. So that's another thing that I wanted to try to get a little bit of that kind of Victorian strictness in there, if that makes any sense.
But I mean, and this is another point. This is the point I was making when I was talking about adolescence. The strictness is actually a necessary guardrail in order to keep you on the correct path. You just have to have it. And so, like I said, this is not you watching YouTube videos. This is you doing active work. But the point is to make you something that you weren't before you did it. This is a way of genuinely leveling up yourself, and it genuinely is in every aspect of life. If you will find yourself understanding things quicker than your boss. You will understand why your boss is talking nonsense, or why the people around you just are not able to properly formulate and articulate a correct argument to things. And these are all things that you should have had as a child. So this is currently live, like I said, at courses.lotus.com. And because I've managed to drag AA into the studio, we are also going to be doing a free webinar. So this will be at 7 p.m. on Thursday, which will be today, of course. This will be linked in the description, so come and follow it. We will be live at 7 p.m. where me and he'll be explaining the depths of this to us, and I will be the normie asking normie questions, and we'll take, of course, a Q&A from the chat, so you will be able to ask direct questions on why you need this, and I genuinely think we do need this.
And I'm not just saying this because, obviously I've been had the trivium, for a while. I have had people who've taken it and being I took this and my grades improved, or I aced my exams, or I even had one, Carl, it helped me get a date.
Look, right? I mean, this is what the thing's for.
I had one, Carl, saying, help me get a date, because she wrote back and said, you write such beautiful English.
Oh, really?
Serious. Yeah, it made him stand out on OkCupid or whatever it was.
This is the point, though, isn't it? Because what these skills do is give you certainty about yourself. Right, you are actually now the master of the things happening around you, and that really, honestly, that's what women look for. Frankly, is a man who's got mastery over the surroundings around him. And so, honestly, I can't recommend this enough. Like I said, it'll be 7 p.m. today. free webinar. Go and find the link, come and join, and we will see you there. Got to sign up with your name and email, and we will send you the thing for 7 p.m. today.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.